All right, ladies and gentlemen, how you guys doing today? Come on, you guys still sound like you're in bed. Come on, how you doing today? That's what we want to hear. So my name is Robert Haynes, and I'm the Director of Operations of a nonprofit organization called EarthQuest. EarthQuest is based out of Orange County, Virginia, and we do educational programs with non-releasable birds of prey, and we take them all over the country to teach people about these birds. Because birds of prey have it really tough out in the wild. And so by getting these birds up close and personal with you guys and teaching you about them, you'll have a better understanding of them and a better appreciation of the natural world in which they live. Let's face it, these are birds of prey and they eat meat. They do not eat their vegetables. And I'm not sure if anyone noticed, but meat prices are pretty expensive right now. And so these fundraisers really help us get through the year, especially during the winter time when we can't be out on beautiful weather like this doing programs. So when you guys are all done, before you head out, definitely check out our booth and see what kind of stuff you can get for Christmas early shopping.
And they also take donations.
We also take donations.
501c3. Thank you.
All right, guys, I think we should go ahead and get started. What do you guys think? Yes. Awesome. Now, this first bird I brought for you guys today, she wouldn't be found here in Virginia, but she is a U.S. native. She's down from the southwestern deserts of the U.S., along the Mexican border of Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico. And her name is Palacios. And this is a hawk. And like we were saying, hawks are predators. These guys eat meat. They don't eat their vegetables. And so they have several adaptations that allow them to hunt and survive in the wild. Let me adjust this mic real quick, guys. So the Harris's hawk is related to the red-tailed hawk that lives in this country. I promise she won't hurt you, sweetheart. What she's doing right now is Palacios is actually flight trained. And so a lot of our demonstrations that we do, Palacios is usually off-leash flying up in that tree over there. So Palacios usually is flighted during our demonstrations, and so she's a little confused on why she's tethered. And so when we do these programs, we usually call them like something like a walk with a hawk, and we'll take Palacios out and release her onto a trail, and we will hike along this trail as she follows us from tree to tree. It's really quite the experience. Now, hawks like this have several adaptations that allow them to hunt and survive in the wild. First off, you guys take a look at the eyes on this hawk. The eyes on birds of prey are about 4 to 6 times more powerful than our own eyesight, meaning that when Palacios is soaring high above the desert looking for her favorite food, which would be a rabbit or a snake, she could see her prey from about a mile away. Just to understand how far that really is and how powerful her vision really is, if you had eyes like a hawk and you were to stand on a 20-story building, you could look down at the sidewalk and see the individual legs of an ant. Birds of prey are also able to see in color. Palacios can actually see a wider range of colors than we can. She can actually see the ultraviolet spectrum as well, which helps her hunt in extremely low light conditions. Now, once this bird has spotted her prey, she's going to use the powerful weapons of birds of prey, which are going to be those feet. That is why we have to wear these leather gloves like this, because hawks have incredibly powerful feet. When she grabs onto her prey, she can squeeze about 250 to 300 pounds per square inch. And on the end of her toes, she has these claws that are called talons. And these talons are not razor sharp like a knife. They're needle sharp like a sewing needle designed to grasp and to hold the prey. And once she's caught her prey, she's going to use that special hooked and curved beak as her knife and fork. That beak is designed for ripping and tearing and helps her get through the hide of the animal that she just caught. Now, one of the really cool things about Harris hawks is, like we were saying, these guys live in the desert, but what's even cooler about them is this is the only bird of prey species in the world that actually lives and hunts in a colony with other birds. So they're actually going to work together in groups of about 3 or 4 pairs per colony, and they will go out and they do what's called cooperative hunting. And they will take turns chasing after the same rabbit to help increase their chances of bringing home food that night. And they will also share in the duties of raising each other's young, which is very abnormal for birds of prey. Most birds of prey are solitary in nature and only allow their mate and their young in their territory. But this bird will even step in and care for another baby if mom and dad are out hunting for the day. You going to stand on my head today? Now, Palacios and me have a really good bond. I've worked with this bird for about 3 years now, and we've become really good buddies. As a matter of fact, she thinks we're a lot better buddies than I do. She actually decided to lay me 3 eggs this year, trying to start a family. She was incredibly confused on why they didn't hatch. I'm not really so sure why not. poor Palacios. It's a tough world out there. But yeah, she did this because she thinks that me and her are bonded. She thinks that I'm her mate, that I'm going to help her raise a family. And so unfortunately, we couldn't do anything really with those eggs, but we are taking the one that did survive falling off the perch. We decided we're going to be donating it to a nature center that's up in the Fredericksburg area so that the kids in the area will be able to see the difference between a robin egg and a hawk egg. So that'll be really neat. Now, Palacios is what's called a soaring family of hawk. And basically what that means is that she has long, broad, rounded-edged wings with a medium-sized tail that helps her soar in the air currents for hours at a time. This helps her when she's hunting her favorite thing, which is going to be mammals as well as things like rodents. Now, one of the biggest problems that these birds of prey face in the wild, especially with our red-tailed hawks that live native, especially right around here at Lake Monticello, is going to be something called rodenticide. You guys ever heard of rodenticide? A lot of people commonly use it. You can buy it usually at the dollar store even. This is a poison that you put out to kill rats. But the problem is most people don't know how it actually works. Rodenticide works because it's mostly made up of salt and it tastes really good. How many of you guys love eating Goldfish crackers or Ritz crackers? They taste really good, right? That is because they are very salty. They taste really good. Well, so does the rodenticide. So it encourages the rats to eat it, but it doesn't kill them right away. Because it's salty, it makes them very thirsty. So it makes them want to find a source of water. So now they're going to leave your house in an effort to find somewhere to go. But how many of you think it would be really easy for a hawk that can see an ant from almost 20-story building? How easy would it be for them to see a rodent in the middle of a lawn like this? It would be very easy for them to see. And they become very easy prey for our native hawks. And many hawks end up in rehab centers poisoned with rodenticide because of this stuff. This is some of the nastiest stuff that we can put in our houses into our environment. So I encourage all of you guys for the rest of your lives, please never put this stuff in your house. It is terrible for our birds of prey, especially if you guys like owls as well. You do not want to be getting rid of all the owls and the hawks in your area because that's only going to encourage more rodent problems, which requires more poison and killing more birds of prey. So we don't want to see that. So I'm going to need your guys' help here real quick. Palacios is actually trained to go home on cue, but she won't go home on my cue. She goes home on your guys' cue. So on the count of 3, I'm going to have you guys all yell, "Go home, Palacios." You guys think we can do that? All right, you guys ready? 1, 2, 3. Look at that. You guys are great bird trainers. Now, Palacios, being a hawk, is what we call a diurnal predator, meaning that she's mostly awake and hunting during the daytime. So if diurnal means daytime, does anyone know what the opposite of diurnal would be? Shout it out. Nocturnal, exactly. What kind of birds of prey are nocturnal? Go ahead and shout it out. Who? Who? What does the owl say? Whoo! I think you guys are going to love this owl. His name is Willie. And unfortunately, Willie is really sleepy. We're going to have to wake Willie up because we actually had to go out and look for him last night. Guess where we found him last night? No, he was at a hootenanny. Okay, we got to give Willie a minute to wake up here. Willie absolutely loves being in his kennel because owls are cavity nesters. And so he is actually just a baby, and so that resembles his nest. And so he does not like to leave his nest. So this is what's called a barred owl. They are native here. You can find them in your backyard. And these guys are really awesome nocturnal hunters. Now, Willie was actually born down in Atlanta, Georgia, and had been found on the side of the road by some people just driving by the area. Willie was found at about 2 weeks old, and he had a cataract taking up most of his left eye. And so when he was brought into a local rehab center in the area, their veterinarians knew that Willie would never be able to survive because his parents wouldn't have been able to teach him how to hunt, being only having one eye. He would have very little depth perception. And so that would severely hamper his ability to hunt and is most likely why his mama kicked him out of the nest. And so they took Willie in and they had to do a surgery called an evisceration to remove that eye from him for his comfort long term. But now since they removed his eye, he definitely can't go back out to the wild. And so he was deemed non-releasable by a veterinarian and was donated to EarthQuest a little over a year ago. So he's about 1.25 years or so. He's still fairly young. He's just getting in his adult plumage. He just went through his first molt. And he is having a lot of fun going around to all the schools. But like I said, he's nocturnal, so he would much rather be in that box right now than he would be over here. But barred owls are amazing. Owls in general have special adaptations that allow them to hunt and survive at night. First off, you guys take a look at Willie's big eye. Their eyes are actually so sensitive, they can take in about 100 times more light than you and I. Just to wrap your head around that, if you took an empty NFL football stadium, turned off every single light, closed up every single window, and you lit one tea-lit candle on the 50-yard line, that would be enough light for Willie to see as if it were daylight like it is now. That's how sensitive his eyes are, or his eye is. Now, believe it or not, owls actually mostly don't hunt through their sight. They're mostly going to be hunting through their hearing. If you guys take a look at Willie's face, you'll notice that on his face he has this big, large, rounded part of his face right around his eye. Those are actually his ears. You can't see the ears because they're covered in specialized sound-sensitive feathers. But if you were to pull those feathers back and look, the first thing you would notice is how big his ear is. His ear is actually so large you could fit an entire nickel inside of his ear canal. I don't know about you guys, but I can only fit my pinky finger into the end of my ear, but he could fit an entire nickel. Isn't that crazy? Now, the other thing you would notice is the ears are differently shaped than ours. Owls have what we call asymmetrical hearing. Our ears are symmetrical, meaning on either side of our head, they're mirror images of each other. They're exactly the same. But on an owl, they're different. One ear points up and one ear points down. And that helps him, triangulate his prey from a distance. And it's been said that this owl's hearing is so good that he can pinpoint his prey from a quarter mile away underneath the 6 or 7 inches of snow. And they will actually hunt the rodents that go underneath of the snow or the long grasses. They'll fly out and they'll drop their feet through that snow and grab onto those rodents. Now, one of the favorite things for these guys to hunt is something that's usually also out at night. He loves to hunt amphibians like frogs. That is one of the favorite food of the barred owl. You may hear them around the lake. They are usually referred to as monkey owls because they'll do what's called caterwauling, and they'll make this weird monkey-sounding hoot back and forth between the male and the female, and they're really fun. But if you guys want to learn how to talk to owls, it is really easy. All you have to do is go out, usually right around dusk is when they like to talk the most, and you're going to say these words, very simple. You say, "Who cooks for you? Who cooks for you all?" Because that is exactly how the barred owl hoots. It's going to sound like he's going, "Whoo, whoo, 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 whoo." And if you can remember who cooks for you, who cooks for you all, you guys can, as a matter of fact, go outside and talk to the native owls. But I encourage you, if you guys decide to do that, please do not do it too much because that hoot is territorial. You are basically saying to all of the barred owls here at Lake Monticello, "I am the new owl in town. You guys need to leave." So do it once or twice, but no more than that because you want your owl to win so he will stay in the area. You don't want to kick him out by talking to him. You don't want any eviction notices. That's bad. You want to step up here, Willie? Woo! He said, "No, thank you." Oh, goodness, Willie. Now, that's another thing you guys may be able to hear, is owls are a little different from hawks. As I was walking around with Palacios, you guys may have been able to hear, every time Palacios tried to fly like that, she made a very large flapping noise. Some of you guys might have heard that even from a distance. She was making a flapping noise. But owls, their feathers are different from hawks. Instead of having a very crisp, clean edge on the edge of their feathers like a hawk does, these guys' feathers are very jagged on the edges, almost like a saw blade. So when they flap their wings, they actually don't make any noise whatsoever. Now I'm going to see if I can get him to step to this thing. This is a new perch that he's never really experienced that much. I'm going to see if he wants to fly to it. I want you guys to try and listen. You guys really shouldn't hear anything at all. You want to hop up here, Willie? Hop up there? There you go, little dude. Yay, Willie! So for some of the parents out there, I'm sure you guys will get the reference of his name. We called him One-Eyed Willie. Anyone remember The Goonies? It's one of my favorite movies growing up. All right, Willie, I think you have done a fantastic job, little dude. It's time for you to go back to bed. You guys ready? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Yes, he said, "I am going to bed. Good night." All righty. Yeah, good day, I guess, would be the proper term there. My apologies, Willie. Now, this next bird, she is not nearly as pretty as Willie, but she makes up for it in other ways. She was a favorite here last year, for those that were here. Her name is Igor, although she's sometimes referred to as the eyesore. Hey, vulture, what are you doing, Igor? This is what's called a black vulture. And these guys are native here to Virginia, and they are honestly one of the funniest animals that live in our area. Black vultures have so much personality in that little body of theirs. They are awesome. One of Igor's favorite things to do when we're at demonstrations is if she is loose, she likes to run up behind me while I'm not paying attention and untie my shoes. They are so wicked smart. Honestly, I would say that these vultures, some of them might rival dolphins in intelligence. They are that smart. But these guys are often hated in our area, especially out in the rural areas. The farmers usually don't like these guys. And a lot of people will actually shoot these guys out of trees. And I've even heard of people specifically running them over on purpose because they hate vultures so much. And it's a shame because people really don't know how amazing these birds are. Vultures are some of the most important animals in our ecosystem. How many of you guys would say you guys hate being sick? You guys hate being sick? Well, if it wasn't for vultures, we would be much sicker. Because you see, vultures have some of the strongest stomach acid in the animal kingdom. Meaning that Igor here, she can actually eat almost any disease on the planet for the most part and remove that pathogen from the environment. It's been said that black vultures can actually eat something infected with anthrax, botulism, distemper, and even rabies. And so these guys fly around eating on that roadkill that we think that they're driving us crazy all the time, but they're actually keeping us safe from disease. They are really important to have around. So imagine hearing that news and thinking about these people that run them over on purpose. They're really not doing anything but making it only worse for us. Now here in the US, we are very lucky. Our vulture populations are stable and even growing. There are so many vultures across the US, it's amazing. But some other parts of the world are not so lucky. In India, they actually have killed off all of their vultures. They have about 99% of their vultures have died in the last couple decades. There is a drug that's commonly used with cattle over there. It's banned pretty much everywhere else in the world, and it is called diclofenac. And this drug is commonly used with cattle, and when used on a cow, once that cow dies, that meat becomes poison to vultures. It is so toxic, it's not even funny. And so, over the last couple centuries, or decades, not centuries, they've lost 99% of their vultures. And what's happened now is, when an animal dies in India, instead of being eaten by the vultures in a matter of days, maybe a week at the most, some of these cattle will sit there for almost 8 weeks. And they will become these bug-infested, disgusting globs of pus. And they will literally liquefy and run into the streams. And that's probably a little graphic, but that's why it's so important we take care of these guys. Because if we didn't have these vultures, that could easily end up here. As a matter of fact, just in Spain in 2013, they just legalized the use of diclofenac in Spain. And so we're going to see a major decline in Europe of these vultures because they are just so unbelievably toxic to them. And so it's really important that we take care of our vultures. Now, Igor here has a bit of a sad story. She was actually born in the wild down in Georgia. And she was stolen out of a nest by some teenagers who thought that they could make this bird a pet. They didn't know that these birds are federally protected and highly illegal to handle without special permits. EarthQuest has both federal and state permits that allow us to care for these animals and demonstrate them to you guys. These kids had no such permits, and they got in a lot of trouble for what they did. But Igor really has the worst punishment of it all. Because she was raised by these people and fed by humans, she has no idea she's a vulture. You guys are going to get a sense of a pattern here, but Igor actually also thinks that I am her mate. Here's the funniest thing though, multiple years ago, we thought Igor was a male. Until about 5 or 6 years ago when she decided to lay an egg on Easter morning. Right? Yeah, I'm not a biologist, but I'm about 99% sure that males don't do that. Right, Igor? So Igor cannot be released to the wild because she has absolutely no fear of people. I don't know if you guys can tell, but she actually enjoys when I scratch her head, especially on her neck here, and she would cause all kinds of mayhem if we released her. As a matter of fact, some people that were here last year may have remembered there was a young girl sitting over here in a chair, and Igor was actually free-flying and ran up and stomped in front of the girl and made her scream because she loves to mess with people. That is one of her favorite things to do. She's quite the troublemaker. So if we released her, and she was by herself in the wild, she would probably fly down to a schoolyard and start stealing sandwiches out of kids' mouths. She would be all kinds of trouble if left alone to her own devices. So that's why we are able to keep these birds in captivity, because they cannot survive on their own, and we can provide a lot of education to the public about why we need to take care of these animals. Now I got one more bird for you guys that I think you guys are gonna like. She was a big hit last year. As a matter of fact, when we were here last year, this was her first ever time being in front of an audience. So I think we're gonna get to see a major improvement in her skills. You guys ready? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Igor says I'd rather stay out, but okay, if you say so. Alrighty. Now, I have a question for you guys. Do you guys know what the fastest animal in the world is? Oh, come on. I heard a cheetah over there. I'm pretty sure this is a bird show. Do you guys think I was going to pull a cheetah out of that kennel? This is a bird show. It's a peregrine falcon, of course. Peregrine falcons are about 3 times faster than a cheetah. When these guys go out to hunt, they're not hunting at the height of the treetops. Peregrine falcons are hunting at about 1,000 feet in the air. And when she sees something she wants, she's going to fold in these narrow wings and dive at speeds around 235 miles an hour. Now this is Maggie, and she's going to be very talkative today. So I'm going to try and hold this mic up so you guys can hear me a little bit better. Maggie has a bit of a troubled past. She's a peregrine falcon that was born in Oregon area and was legally taken out of the nest by what's called a falconer. Are you going to talk the whole time? You have something to say about that? So, she was legally taken out of the nest by a falconer out in the Oregon area. And this gentleman had proper permits to do what he did, and he did it fully legally. But the problem is he wasn't very good at what he did. And he did a couple really bad mistakes with Maggie when he was raising her, and she is really scared of people. And that's why she's making that noise at me right now, is because she's actually terrified of me. And so we're doing everything we can for this poor girl so we can teach her that this is an easy way to make a living. But she's not getting it so far, but we're going to keep trying. All right, Maggie, let's do this, sweetheart. Let's see, let's stop up there. That might make you a little happier. She's also going through a molt right now, and so she's very much in that mood of, please leave me alone, I don't want to be bothered. But it's okay. Is that a little better for you, sweetheart? Now again, peregrine falcons are the fastest animal in the world. Different from hawks, they have long, narrow, pointed wings that allow them to dive at speeds around 235 miles an hour. Now, we do have peregrine falcons that live in this area, but they're mostly going to be found around the cities. And that's because peregrine falcons' favorite food on the planet to eat are going to be pigeons. They love pigeons. That is their favorite thing on the planet. They are also known for being called duck hawks because they also love to eat waterfowl. But they're pretty much going to eat anything with wings. Now, these guys are really amazing because we almost lost these guys. We almost lost the peregrine falcons here in the United States. Back in the 50s, the average population of the peregrine falcons was right around 2,300 nesting pairs on the east coast of the United States. But in the 60s, that dropped drastically. It dropped from 3,200 to 320 nesting pairs on the East Coast. Something was seriously wrong in nature, and no one really knew what was going on. So the Fish and Wildlife Service came to the rescue and put their top biologist up to the task, a lady by the name of Rachel Carson. Some of you guys may be familiar with her work. Rachel Carson was a biologist, and she started looking at samples of eggshells of peregrine falcons and blood samples, as well as our national symbol, the bald eagle. And she started looking at their eggshells and notices high concentrations of the insecticide DDT within the eggshells and inside the bodies of the birds. Now, when she raised all these fears to her supervisors, they all told her there's no way that DDT could be involved in this. DDT was an amazing insecticide that was used for, the last decade to help kill mosquitoes and keep all kinds of pests from being spread around the United States. What they didn't know is that this stuff was not as amazing as everyone talked about. It didn't just kill the insects. It killed some of them, but some of them would live with this insecticide in their body and would get eaten by birds, which would get eaten by bigger birds, which would get eaten by peregrine falcons. And it would build up in the bodies of these birds and the bald eagles and brown pelicans and countless other species, and it started to seriously mess with them. And in the peregrine falcons case and the bald eagles, it actually made their eggshells so thin that they would not be able to hatch at all. So for several years, there was almost no peregrine falcons hatching around the world. And so Rachel Carson finally had enough. After arguing with her supervisors enough, she finally left the Fish and Wildlife Service and wrote a book called The Silent Spring. If you guys have never heard of that book, I urge you guys to take a look at it. It is one of the most amazing books you'll ever read because it really teaches you guys about the dangers of poisoning the environment with these chemicals. I'm actually reading it right now when I'm driving to and from presentations. I listen to it on audiobook, and it's amazing. And so Rachel Carson's book started a movement that actually convinced the public to get DDT banned, and it is no longer used in the United States. And because of it, brown pelicans, bald eagles, peregrine falcons have all made incredible comebacks. Now it's getting to the point where bald eagles are almost like a vulture flying around. They're everywhere. Have you guys ever been to a local landfill? There's like 4 of them flying around all the time. So this is one of the best lessons you guys can go home with today, is that anything that, this is my philosophy, if you wouldn't pour it into a drink of water and drink it yourself, we probably shouldn't be spraying it on our grass and spraying it in our environment. Would you guys agree? That's one of my philosophies. And so if you guys enjoyed the Birds of Prey, I hope you guys will take that philosophy home and help save our native wildlife. Again, my name is Robert Haynes, and we are EarthQuest. If you guys enjoyed the presentation, want to help us support us, definitely check out our booth over there. We're going to be sitting with a couple of the birds and hanging out with people. We got some really awesome stuffed animals over there. All of them actually talk, so when you squeeze them, they're going to play the call of that bird. You want to step up? Okay. Good job. That is what a mad peregrine falcon sounds like, guys. All right, you guys ready? 1, 2, 3. Yay, Maggie! I'll put it this way. If you guys are ever out hiking, especially out west, and you hear that noise, duck. Because it's going to hurt. Again, thank you guys so much for coming out, and definitely come check out the booth. We're going to get Willie out here in a minute if you guys want to come up and take a picture with him or get to see him real close, but definitely check out our booth before you guys head out of there. And again, thank you guys so much for hearing me talk and listening and seeing our birds. You guys have a wonderful day.